Good evening and welcome. We are so glad you are here. My name is Melinda Kruper, and I'm the lay pastoral associate here at Most Sacred Heart. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. Please know that we offer hearing assist devices for those who might benefit. For those who need a place to comfort a crying child, you may find a space in our vestibule, or we made a place for you in the bride's room, which has a couch, a TV monitor, and speakers. It also has a movable screen for nursing mothers. Our bathrooms are at the back of the church. The men's is on my left, and the women's is on my right. During tonight's talk, we are using this reflection guide. Let us know by a raise of hand if you need one or if you need a pen to write. And yes, after the presentation, please take the reflection guide with you. It has been designed for you to use at home as well. And a friendly reminder, if you have not already done so, please turn off or silence your phone before this evening's presentation begins. If you know someone who is unable to attend this presentation tonight, please share with them that Father Joe will be giving a similar version of this presentation on April 2nd at Holy Infant in Baldwin. Also, this presentation is being live streamed, and a link to this recording will be available on our parish YouTube channel afterwards. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. Father Joe Kempf is someone whose love of God shows forth in an enthusiasm for life. If you're from this parish, you might have noticed this about him. He is the pastor here at this parish, Most Sacred Heart, and the founder and president of Gospel Values, a nonprofit company dedicated to proclaiming the beautiful message of Jesus for children of all ages. All profits from the sales of any books he writes goes to charity. Father Joe is the author of Are You Good Enough Yet? No One Cries the Wrong Way. Don't You Dare Forgive Unless, and several books for children, including My Sister Is Annoying, Don't Drink the Holy Water, and Sometimes Life is Just Not Fair. He brings a love of storytelling, a heart for God's people, and a desire to help us remember those things that truly matter. Plus, his presentations are always insightful and engaging. Please give a warm welcome to Father Joe Kempf.
Because speakers like me can sometimes get a bit too theoretical in my estimation, I will offer a few practical tips from time to time. Some things I think you might actually be able to use, like this one from a mother of young ones, should you have young children. Her theory is, when my kids act up in public, I like to yell, "Wait until I tell your mother and pretend they're not mine." Or, I found this parenting approach particularly insightful. This is a kid and mom. The kid says, "I feel like you're always making up rules and stuff." Mom's like, "What?" "Like if I don't clean my room, a portal will open and take me to another dimension." He said, "Well, that's what happened to your older brother." "What older brother?" "Exactly." Thank you so much for being here tonight. Just honored to be in your presence. Here's what we'll do with this time. After this introduction, I will speak on 11 topics. Each little segment will be about 5 to 6 minutes at most. There's overlap among them, of course. Some are a bit longer than others, some a bit more intense. It's not lost on me that each of these topics could in themselves be given a whole series of presentations. It was, challenging and sometimes frustrating to limit myself to so few words on such important topics. I could imagine that it might be a little bit frustrating to just hear such few words on some of these topics. But it was my theory that perhaps this would be the most way to do the most good for the most people. And I do hope you find some benefit. We'll talk about these 11 things in this order. 1, the parents we wished we'd had. Motherhood, fatherhood, infant death, and by that I'm going to be speaking especially of death in utero or shortly after birth, pregnancy and childbirth, as presented by the male celibate priest. Oops, I think I skipped one. Nope, I didn't, went too far. Young ones and the busy parent, adolescents, thus the word yikes, older kids, a loved one with memory issues, burying a family member, and we'll end with a little bit of a focus on you, your prayer, and your family, which includes a little meditation to end. And if you've heard me speak before or read stuff I've written, you've probably heard a few of these stories or anecdotes before. Probably not most of them, and certainly not in this fashion. And though I think the flyer said we have an hour and a half for this presentation, we will be done in 1 hour and 10 minutes and 30 seconds at most. First, a few words about terminology. There are 2 basic ways that we speak of family. The first is the family of origin, right? The family we grew up in. What that looks like varies tremendously, right? But basically, it's a family we grew up in. Secondly, are the families we choose. For some, that means marriage. For some, it could mean communal living, like in a religious community, religious order. It also consists of the friends we make as we go through life, right? Those folks to whom we love, like a brother or a sister, perhaps, or mom or dad. And these 2 types of families are not mutually exclusive, of course, right? I am blessed that my siblings are also among my dear friends. Now, in my remarks, I'm going to move back and forth between those 2 families without trying to delineate which is which. Please translate this how that applies best to you. Secondly, when I speak about children, I'm talking about biological kids, stepchildren, adopted kids, foster kids, grandkids, kids entrusted to our care in any way. It's not lost on me that there are unique challenges, blessings, and skill sets called forth in various life realities, like when family members are neurodivergent or perhaps rescued from an abusive situation or have special needs. Again, translate any of my words into what most makes sense for your life situation. As Melinda said, this book is meant to help us think as we go along and perhaps jot a few notes from time to time. We can go back and explore further. I think these are good questions to keep in mind. What do you want to remember from this presentation? What do you want to maybe explore further? What do you want to celebrate about your own family? I would hope and pray that there are some things for which you're grateful, right? Is there something you might need to grieve about your own family? My answer is yes. Without even knowing your family, but you might want to think about what that might look like for you. Is there something you might want to do differently after hearing this? And if you've got some thoughts, who is somebody that could support you as you try to love and survive your own family? So as we go along, if anything strikes you, just jot a thought under any of those categories, should that be helpful. It might even be something that I didn't say, but just stirred in you anyway. Again, it's my heartfelt prayer. It really is. I just pray with all my heart that for each person here, there's something that was really important for you to hear, that God wanted you to hear. I actually believe that will be the truth. I hope you experience it, that God would speak to you through me and as needed in spite of me. And if nothing else, I pray that the cumulative effect of this presentation gives you a renewed sense of your own importance, your own goodness, just as you are. That's the intro. Let's dig in. The parents we wished we had. As important as family is, it's also difficult, sometimes extremely so. A wisdom figure in bereavement ministry that I used to study, Dr. Ira Byock, had this brilliant sentence. At least I thought it was hilarious and great. He said, "I've always thought that the term dysfunctional family is redundant. I get it." Poet Mary Carr put it this way: "I think a dysfunctional family is any family with more than one person." Your growing up was different than mine, of course. And it was similar to mine in this way. Just as we each get our best gifts and qualities from our home life, we also get wounded there. There's no way around it. Whatever our parents did or didn't do, whether we name it or not, all kids will feel deep pain and those losses that are unavoidable in childhood. Now, ideally, it is in the care of a loving mom, of a loving dad, that we first get this foundational sense of who we are in the world, right? That in that home we are meant to find out who we are, that we are deep down good, because you are, that we are in those things that truly matter safe, that we are seen for who we are as we are and valued, that we're wanted, that we matter, that we are valued. And for any ways we did not get that as a kid, we need to name it, grieve it, and find people who can model back to us that sense of goodness and safety and value. And if you hear nothing else from this talk, hear this. The worst qualities of your mom or dad, God is nothing like that. We tend as kids to somehow connect those two as if they're the same. The worst qualities of a parent, God is nothing like that. And the best qualities in your mom and dad, those are a glimpse of how awesome God truly is. So, as we go through life, then there is this parallel energy. We need to learn to parent ourselves, right? We take the best we got from our parents and affirm it in ourselves, right? And we learn to let go of that which was not healthy from them. We keep the wisdom, we let go of what is not so great. And to end part one, in case you did not hear any of these things growing up, or at least hear it well enough to truly take it in, and I'm not sure this could work in this setting, but I'm going to say a few things that I know that God wants you to know about you. Hear me if you can. Things that God wants you to know. One, you are good. God wants you to hear that because you are deep down good. Two, you are seen for who you are. You are loved for yourself just as you are. Three, your needs are not a problem. It's okay to have needs. Four, in those things that matter, you will not be betrayed. Deep down, you are safe. And five, your presence matters. You are wanted. You are. That's part one. Part two, motherhood. This will be brief because the elements of motherhood will be woven throughout the next hour. I'll begin with a summary of motherhood by that great theologian, Jim Gaffigan, who changed, I'm going to change one word in what he said. His description of motherhood, he says, motherhood is a thankless job with ridiculous hours, but at least the pay stinks. Any mothers know that to be true, right? I would say that the letting goes of parenthood, and perhaps in a special way, motherhood, are countless. They never end. My favorite definition of motherhood, and if you're a mom of a few years at least, I bet you could get this. I know you would tell me it's true. Motherhood is that incredible risk to have a part of your heart walk outside of your body for the rest of your life. I'll say it again. Motherhood is that incredible risk to have a part of your heart walk outside of your body for the rest of your life. To all who have this calling of motherhood, this exhausting, beautiful, important, frightening, ever-changing, exhausting, if I already said that, almost impossible vocation, please know that for all of that, yours is a noble calling. And I would suggest that in all of that, you have known something of the heart of God in a way I could never know in your heart. And moms, you give us a glimpse into the self-emptying love that is at the heart of this universe. The self-emptying love that is at the heart of God. That's part 2. The QR code in here, there's 2 of them. The first one will link you to a homily that I gave a little bit more info, not more info, but more of a perspective on that. It's called Motherhood and the Unseen Tear. There's also a correlating kids message from the other one. I think it's that one, that message is called, Do I Still Fit Inside Your Heart? All right. Part 3, fatherhood. Here's a question before we begin. What's something that your dad did right? I'm sure I could find out plenty that dad didn't do right. Is there anything that your dad did right? What would that be? It's not a bad question to ask. We asked that at a family gathering a while back. Dad's been deceased for a number of years. Here's a picture of my dad. Dad was a simple, good man who worked hard trying to provide for and raise 6 kids. Of course, he was not perfect, and he was a good man. When I was young, it was my dad who taught me how to ride a bike. After Dad helped me onto the seat of what seemed like this enormous bike, Dad did what you had to do when teaching somebody how to ride a bike. Dad held on. And I know Dad held on because I remember being starting to tip, and Dad just brought me right back up again. Eventually, Dad started to do the next important thing, let go. But he still ran right next to me, ready to catch me. And then eventually, Dad let me go all the way around the bend on Brightwood Drive out of his sight. Dad did the 2 things you got to do when teaching someone how to ride a bike. Dad held on, and Dad let go. It's what healthy families do, holding on and letting go. It's what each of us is called to do in our families. And it is the energy that I believe is at the heart of being a loving dad. I mean, isn't it true that in the love of a dad for his kids, stepkids, foster kids, biological kids, there's a strength and a tenderness. There's a holding on and a letting go. It is how Jesus lived his entire life with that little band of disciples, teaching them, holding them on, letting them go, taking them back, coaching them again, sending them forth. When my dad taught me how to ride a bike, little did I realize Dad was also teaching me what life was all about. The QR code links to a homily with a little bit more words on that same topic. And for kids, the message, did Big Al use training wheels? As I mentioned, I'll speak later about the grief that comes from burying a family member. For now, I'll speak on something that, from my experience, is rarely addressed in group settings. It's the death of a child in utero or shortly after birth. To anyone here who has lost a child through miscarriage, abortion, stillbirth, or early death, in addition to my sympathy, I would offer these few words. If you've never been to Holy Thursday service here, please come. It's stunning and moving. What we do is we call one person forward at a time. There's a chair right here. I say a word about that person because behind each face is a story, and Father Leo washes their feet. This past Holy Thursday, while his wife Lydia sat in the pews over there, we washed the feet of Alexander Hernandez. They had gotten the news a month or two before that their in utero child, Cecilia Michelle, had trisomy 13, a genetic disorder which means that the child would either die before birth or shortly thereafter. Little Cecilia Michelle was born and lived for 6 hours. For the funeral homily, I told them about the species of a cactus flower, which can only be found in high desert country. This species of flower blooms only one single time in its entire life and for several hours. It arrives sometimes between sunset and midnight, a summer night, and for several hours in its one lonely spot on the universe, shines brightly for the world. And by morning light, it's shriveled up and gone. And what was it for? Its whole purpose was to be, right? To bring the beauty of its life for this world in that short period. And though it's gone by the next day, its beauty is not diminished. There's a sadness at its passing, but it was a gift to the world. And it strikes me that there is maybe something like that when it happens for any of us who had to bury a child before birth or shortly thereafter. That beautiful child bloomed too briefly, and all who love that child are changed. And if you've ever known that heartache, I pray that you have people around you with whom you feel safe to cry whatever you want to cry, and for as many years as you want to. People with whom you feel free to laugh, to be angry, to be scared, to be relieved, to feel all those things, to feel none of those things or many more at the same time. And I would encourage you to please don't hesitate to tell other people what you don't want us to say around you or how we could love you in the midst of that. I mean, it's true of any grief. Who's got the energy for that? And yet we need to be coached. It's important that you know that there are people who care, and you go on as best as you can with all the mixture of emotions that you have to try to love this world and counting on your child to pray for you each step of the way. I'm going to end this section with a bit of a song called From Home to Home by Danielle Rose. My cousin Mickey, who lives in St. Charles, watched the live stream of our Holy Thursday Mass. And when she saw that the Hernandez family, she sent me a link to this song, a song that she has shared with others who have had a child who died in utero or shortly thereafter. Again, the QR code would take you to the full homily and to this song. Again, it's a portion of a song. We don't have to do the whole thing. It's a mother's prayer for her child who died shortly before birth or shortly after.
I was chosen as your pathway to eternal life. The bridge to cross you o'er the valley to the other side. You began and you completed your race. My heartbeat marked the hour when you first saw Jesus' face. Hey, instead of loving the darkness of your death, thinking I'm just a tomb where you were laid to rest, I was open like a gateway, becoming the heavens door. The window where you first saw the light of the Lord. Inside of me, to you he came. You were never alone. You were held in love every moment, carried from home to home.
Again, if you know anyone who might benefit from that, just forward that link to them. Next, pregnancy and childbirth. Again, as presented by the male celibate priest. As my brother Dennis said, Dennis is hilarious. As Dennis said about my celibacy, no, it's a good thing, Joe, because there is no lifeguard at the gene pool. I get it. And he's got a point. You know, it was researching this presentation that I discovered that this is not how childbirth happens. I mean, who would have known? So honestly, really, I got very little to offer on this subject except a bit of silliness. Now, I don't know about you, but it finds me, it helps me to find stuff to laugh about. And evidently, this OBGYN is a bit like me. So I culled 6 of my favorite answers he gave to questions that he received. So about pregnancy and childbirth. To the question, should I have a baby after 35? He answered, no, 35 children is enough. To this question, I'm 2 months pregnant now. When will my baby move? He answered, with any luck, right after he finishes college. To the question, what is the most reliable method to determine a baby's sex? Hard to argue with this. Childbirth. Is there any reason why I have to be in the delivery room? Oh no, back up. My wife is 5 months pregnant and so moody that sometimes she's borderline irrational. He says, so what's your question? Is there any reason why I have to be in the delivery room while my wife is in labor? He says, not unless the word alimony means anything to you. And then my favorite. My childbirth instructor says it's not pain that I'll feel during labor, but pressure. Is she right? He answers, yes, in the same way that a tornado might be called an air current. So all I have to offer on this topic around childbirth and pregnancy is this summary: I am so never getting pregnant. And to all of you who do, God bless you. All right. Younger kids and the busy parent. Really, there are like 8 billion things I could say. Here's just one. Contrary to this advice, it goes so fast, which it does. You need to cherish and savor every moment. What I would say is, there is no way to cherish and savor every moment. Some moments you just survive. Some periods you just survive. You apologize as you need to. You learn what you can. You start over, and you take care of yourself along the way. When it comes to parenting young ones, I like what this pediatrician named Rebecca Diamond said. She said, and it's great, if you still think there's such a thing as perfect parenting, just know that I'm a pediatrician and a parenting author, and my toddler is eating strawberries dipped in ketchup for dinner tonight. It works. Really, you just do what you can do. And I please know that God has great compassion for you. And I can't even imagine adding the sleep deprivation, the hormonal adjustments, the what do I do with this? Now my kid is sick, how do I do that? I really do think God has great compassion for you. Now, during a podcast I heard a few years ago, a young woman named Bree, who had a couple of young ones, described how she was overwhelmed by all the demands, right? But she still somehow carved out time, because he took her spirituality very seriously, to attend this workshop by Jim Finley. He's a wonderful spiritual writer. And he, among other things, helps people learn contemplative prayer. And when she talked about her prayer life, she'd always describe herself as this frustrated mom who's just pulled in way too many directions to do this. So at one point during the workshop, she speaks up and says, and I'll quote her, "Where is the icon of the contemplative mom with one baby on the hip and a crying kid on the floor and burning food on the stove and trying to work on the laptop on the side, feeling like I get up early in the morning to try to pray, and that it doesn't matter how early I get up because my kids are always going to interrupt my morning prayer anytime, my prayer time anyway?" Jim Finley responds beautifully. He says, "Okay, Bree, you be you and I'll be God." And he goes to get in front of her, sits down, and in front of the class says, on behalf of God, "Bree, it means so much to me that you get up early to try to pray. I see how much you love me, and that you even get up early to spend this time with me, and I can't tell you how much it means." Then he ends by saying this, "You see, Bree, you're so precious to me, and I just love you so much, I can't bear it. So what I do, Bree, is rush into the bodies of your children and wake them up because I want to know what it feels like to be held by you." Someone I know who was there said Bree started sobbing, that pretty soon everyone in the room was wiping tears, because for Bree, and I think Jim Finley was right, in the midst of the impossible demands, God wanted to know what it felt like to be held by her. So God would rush into the arms of her children to wake them. God came to Bree, and it's just what God does. Some 2,000 years ago, God came in a singular way into this troubled world through a humble, poor, working class couple. God came to this world as a newborn infant to experience what we experience in its fullness. And here's the great news. God continues to come to us this day and each day. And which brings me to one of the most important sentences that I know. And if you've been here for a number of years and heard me preach, you might have heard this before. But it's the answer to the question, how does God come to us? The answer is, God comes disguised as our lives. How does God come? God comes disguised as your life, as my life, into the blessed mess, into the only life that we have, right? The ordinary, imperfect life. And parents, when you got young ones, many parents have told me how sweet they are when they're sleeping, right? They look so cute. Now, my personal interpretation of that is it's for survival of the species. Well, that's why I didn't kill those suckers, right? Basically. But you know how that love wells up inside of you at those moments? What I would say to you about that is not only what God is like, which it is, that also is God in you. I'll repeat that. That is not only what God is like, that is God in you. So, parents of young ones, when tears gather in your eyes or even bring you sobbing to your knees, remember that you understand God in a way that no one else can. Remember that God understands you as well, and there's a special place in God's heart for you. All right. Before we talk about adolescence, I had thought about a little bit of talking about the dangers of the virtual world, but really everything I was going to say, I say in a longer form on the homily I gave on Super Bowl Sunday. It's a QR code will lead you to that as well. It's called the Super Bowl, Olivia Rodrigo, Jesus, Father Joe's iPhone, and fishing. As a quick aside, the story I began that homily with, a few weeks ago I spoke at the Los Angeles Religious Education Congress. There are people from all over the country, but even the world, but in my session, 800 to 1,000 of them were from LA, or at least fans of LA Rams. So I told them the story that I said at my homily that weekend. Oh, I do great joy. It still stinks how the ownership took them. So I said, okay, so what do you call 53 guys watching the Super Bowl together? It's like, I go, the LA Rams. It felt good to say. It didn't bring them back, but it felt good to say. Anyway, I thought I should share with you that I got to say that to them. All right. Okay. So if you listen to that homily, think of them. All right. Adolescents. So first, how many of you at this age of life have one or more teens or preteens? Good. How many of you ever had teenagers? How many of you who just raised your hands would rather not remember those days? That was rhetorical. Oh, geez. It's not easy being a young person. It isn't. It's not easy being the parent of someone that age, right? Now, it really gets interesting, I think, when they hit that pre-teen age. Now, it needs to be a few years younger now, because puberty hits so quickly and they grow so fast. But years ago, Mark Twain said, his theory goes, when your kid hits 13, you should put them in one of those barrels with a hole in it. When they hit 16, cork up the hole. Young people going through radical hormonal and physical changes start distancing themselves from their parents to try to start to establish a sense of who they are. And each kid has to do it. Professionals call the process individuation. Some navigate it more graciously than others. I do not know how you do not take this personally, because they mean it personally. They say the most personal, awful things they can. Now, again, some of them are a little bit more gracious about this than others. One guy shared with me recently, I love this. My wife and I decided we don't want children. It was a difficult decision. We're telling them tonight. I love that the scriptures keep that story of Jesus staying behind at the temple, being lost, Mary and Joseph terrified, running, and they found him. And you know how that happens when you're scared? And then when you know it's safe, then it kind of turns to anger. And Mary was a little bit sharp in her response. Did you not know we'd be terrified? His answer was a bit smart alecky back. Did you not know I must be about my Father's business? Now, I am convinced that later he apologized for how he said that, but not that he said it, because he did have to distance. So parents, you need to keep boundaries. Yeah. Not everything is okay, right? You got to encourage authentic values in your kids. But as I'll talk about in the next segment, we also need to learn to let them go and be uniquely themselves. And please remember, your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth, even if it's your own kids. Again, I just have great compassion for you in that. All right. Older kids. Oops. That was the section I took out, just to see if you paid attention. Older kids. When I was growing up, from time to time I heard this saying, maybe you've heard it, maybe it's just an old person thing. It's as easy as flying a kite. Now I remember thinking, either there's something wrong with me, or whoever invented that phrase lives on a planet with different air currents than the one I grew up on. I never found it very easy, right? You'd run, sometimes there wasn't enough, and you just run, and then it was too strong, and you'd add a little more tail, and then half the time that you would either break or end up in a ditch or a gutter or something like that. Now, it could be said, if you ask me, that parenting is like flying a kite, right? You spend a lifetime trying to get your kids off the ground. You run breathless with them, watching as they sometimes spiral and crash. You add a longer tail, they hit the roof, you pick them out of the spout, you patch them, you comfort them, you teach them, and you assure them that someday they will fly. And you see them lifted and watch them start to sail a bit further away. And they need more string, and you keep letting it out, right? And there's always the challenge of how tight to keep that string, how loose to keep it. And there's always that sadness, perhaps, as the kite gets more and more distant. And somehow it won't be long before that beautiful creature will snap the lifeline that bound you together and soar free. And you have your hopes and your memories, and you have your heartache at letting go, and you have an understanding of the heart of God. Parents, it becomes time for your kids to fly. You'll still be in them, but you're not them, and they're not you. Now, if you have kids that age, or will, here's one of the most important sentences I know, if you do the whole sentence. If they call back from college or whatever and complaining about their roommate or the food or whatever, the sentence is, I have a thought about that if you would like to hear it, period. You gotta say the whole sentence and then stop talking. I have a thought about that if you would like to hear it, period. Usually they don't want to hear it because they don't believe you can shut up. Eventually, though, if you show that you can, they kind of want to hear. One mom said the other day that what she does is she responds by saying, do you want me to try to help you solve the problem, or you just want to talk and have me listen? Anyway, we have to learn to renegotiate boundaries all the time. One of my friends said it was much harder for her to learn to do that when her kids were older than when they were younger. So flying a kite, not easy. I get that. But really, in all the loving and letting go, you give us a glimpse into the very heart of God who loves us that way. All right, we're going to pause for a bit now. Please take a look at your reflection guide for just a moment. Jot a thought or two for one or two questions, at least make a mental note. You have only 38 seconds for that, and I will time this. Go. Ten, 9, 8, 0. I could tell a few of you were getting a little bit chilly when you started lighting the pew on fire to warm your hands, so I just raised it a tiny bit. So here's what we're going to do. If you can easily do so, please stand for just a moment or two. Find someone near you. If you don't know them, tell them your name. Then you do this. You tackle them, you pin them down, and you make them listen to something that you just wrote down. Okay. Like, one of those things, like something you wanted to remember or explore further or celebrate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can stay standing or you can be seated for this. You've got 22 seconds to talk, and then the other person has 22 seconds to talk back. So on your mark, get set, go. Share something with the person next to you. Now make sure the other person gets to talk. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Thank you for doing that. Please continue these conversations. I think it's important. Yep. All right. Next, having a loved one with memory issues or any kind of cognitive decline. If you have a family member, parent, spouse, whatever, struggling with memory issues and maybe significant cognitive decline, I'll tell you what you already know. It's really hard, isn't it? It's lonelier than people could imagine. It feels so relentless. You sometimes get so darn mad at that person. You get mad at life. You get mad at yourself. I don't know anyone who has ever been married to someone with memory issues or taken a spouse into their home to care for them with those issues who didn't get aggravated at them sometimes and have regrets about how they handled their aggravations sometimes. And if you had a loved one with memory issues who's deceased, here's a recommendation. One thing you could do with that is You write them a note, type it up, print it out, light it on fire. And/or you write a note from them to you. I think it's best to write yours first and then write one from them to you. Imagine what they would say to you now from their vantage point. Beyond that, I have one story and 3 resources. The story is something I now realize I want to share on a Sunday at some point or another here. A Jesuit priest named Father Mark Torres helped his mom through dementia. I mean, even as she ultimately landed in memory care, as did my mom. And at one point, she didn't recognize anyone, even her husband of 63 years. Now, this priest, Mark, would do anything he could to help support Dad and along the way and to love his mom. And he noticed that each time before Dad would leave to go visit her, he'd take this little scrap of paper from something under the mantle and put it in his pocket. He said, "Dad, what is that paper?" And Dad showed it to him. It had 3 letters on it, JLH. He said, "Dad, what does that stand for?" It stands for just love her. And I would imagine that for a number of folks here who are dealing with parents or other loved ones for whom this is your reality, just love her, just love him is a beautiful invitation and a daunting task. So here are 3 resources for anyone who cares for adults with aging or memory issues. They are listed and described more thoroughly in this week's bulletin and in our email blast. On Friday, we'll send you a link to them. If you're not on the email blast already, go to our homepage, just type in your email address. These are somewhat local, which is why I think we found these 3. The first one is called Visiting Angels. This is just the link. Again, the link will be in the bulletin. It provides in-home care as well as respite care. And their website offers helpful articles, Visiting Angels. Secondly, the Alzheimer's Association. It offers all kinds of support for caregivers, including support groups, resources. And then Adult Day at the J Connections. It's a full-day program at the Jewish Community Center, which is open to people of every faith, right? But it provides like holistic support for anyone who might require more assistance during the day and support for caregivers. I don't know costs or anything like that. And there are also adult daycare centers which provide what they describe, just adult daycare, a place to make sure they have a meal and are safe. And dealing with loved ones with memory issues on top of everything else that life throws at you can be extraordinarily difficult. It is. But you're not alone. God loves them through you. And God loves you each imperfect step of the way. Burying a family member. Sometimes death comes suddenly and without warning. So my dad died younger than I am. At other times we have advanced notice that someone we love is going to die, like my mom. If we have that advanced notice, it gives us the opportunity and invitation to be intentional about what we do at those times. And in particular, one of the things I encourage is always to say those things we might lament later that we never said. Thank you, I'm sorry, I forgive you, and I love you. When my dad had a brain aneurysm, he never regained consciousness. I said, you guys, could we just get 1 minute alone in the room? Because there was some stuff I would say to my dad that I just would feel self-conscious to say around my siblings. I told him I loved him. I told him I was proud of him. I thanked him. I forgave him for the look, which was painful for me. I forgave him for one thing which never bothered me at all, but which I worried bothered him. And I told him I loved him. If you missed your chance to do that with a loved one who's deceased, I'd say write it out, light it on fire. I say light it on fire because I'm a guy, but it's just my way of offering it. Do they hear precise words? I don't know. Do they feel the love? I know they do. And just last weekend, somebody said, well, yeah, but what if she pulls through this? Or then I said, here's how you begin that sentence. Hey, Mom, I hope you're here for many years, but just in case, I wanted to say these things. As regards grief, oh, by the way, secondly, it is really okay if no one is in the room when they die. Yes, go home, take a shower. Yes, get food, take care of yourself along the way. These sprints turn into marathons. I've become convinced, having been with so many people as they die, that at death, everything that keeps us from sensing how connected we are dissolves away. They will not die alone. Some people seem to almost wait until everyone is sleeping or who has left the room because they're private that way or want to try to protect us. Then grief, I could go on at length. I created video series and wrote books about grief and kid book and stuff. But two things. For most of us, grief comes like waves. It pounds us for a while and then we're calm. It pounds us for a while and then we're calm. Pounds us for a while and then we're calm. Over the years, the waves spread out a little bit typically, come a little bit less intensely. Then out of the blue, there's this rogue wave which comes out of nowhere, which sucks us underneath again. I always want to protect people from the well-intentioned, and by the way, you can't predict. And the waves will just surface when you least expect them. I always try to protect people from the well-intentioned, dumb things people say. Let me say well-intentioned, unhelpful things. The QR code links you to a homily I wrote where I suggest some helpful things to say. And last weekend I talked about one of those. The QR code links to the poem, the homily, Why the Poem, The Elephant in the Room. Be that as it may. I always want to protect people from things like this. I know just how you feel. Because, no, they don't. Say, I'm sorry that people are going to say things like anything that suggests God did this. God didn't give your daughter cancer or have your son in a car wreck or whatever. I whole homily on that last weekend. Go to our YouTube channel or our website. Or at least, I think the grieving person should get to say at least, no one else should. Or this one, I get it. How are you? How am I? My daughter just died of cancer. How am I? How do I answer that? Or anything that suggests be strong or whatever. When my dad died, it was such a shock. The one helpful thing somebody said that I remember was somebody said, keep breathing. Sometimes it's about what you can do. So I'm also aware of kids and grief, which is why I wrote a book for kids with coaching in the back for grown-ups. But you've heard me talk for a while. Here's one prayer from that book. And this time you'll hear my niece's voice reading that prayer. It's called My Heart is Sad. I miss her so.
My heart is sad. I miss her so. The world is not the same. I miss the way she looked and smelled, the way she said my name. Dear God, the world seems darker now. There's so much in my heart. I wonder how I'll be okay, since we are now apart. No one else could take her place. She means so much, you see. Please tell her that I love her, God. Give her a hug for me.
All right, before our final section, just a few announcements because I'm lazy. I'd rather say them all at once. That prayer is from a book I rewrote recently called Sometimes Life is Just Not Fair. It's for kids. It has a reflection, prayers like that, some activities for kids. I particularly like this about it. In the back, it has coaching for parents or teachers or grandparents, how to talk to kids who are grieving. And it goes through each chapter with a few thoughts for grown-ups. I'm glad, Melinda, you mentioned I don't make a penny off of it. You can buy that on Amazon, but if you buy it in the back here, more money goes to the charities. So we can sell them at a discount as well. We can buy them at even greater discount. You can learn about any of the efforts for a little group of volunteers at it's called Gospel Values. Oh, there's the book. Sometimes Life is Just Not Fair. GospelValuesOnline.com. Although from time to time we sell books here. And there is if you're not from this parish, if you go to our webpage and go to that middle box, the webpage is sacredhearteureka.org. The middle box is called Faith. You click on that. There's an icon with links to homilies, like last weekend's homily, icon to kids' messages, priest mass schedule, which priest has which mass for the rest of the month, so that my siblings don't have to accidentally show up at a mass that I have. And as mentioned, this coming Wednesday, 1 week from tonight, I'll give the same presentation, somewhat modified, at Holy Infant. Anyway, but we'll post this to our YouTube channel. All right, thanks. To end our final section, and it's called You, Your Family, Your Prayer. To those who are parents, I want to say this. Please know that you are not your kids, and how they are is not a reflection on you. I mean, you are important and beloved, whatever your kids do or don't do, whatever they're like or not like. You influence them profoundly. And you're not them, and they are not you. One of your most crucial jobs is to make sure they know that you love them and accept them for who they are. And you do that unconditionally in only the ways that you can. Quick aside, the sigh is from the heartache I've had to deal with. Thank you for not drawing a line in the sand. You marry her or him or in that location, wherever you're out. Please, there's no reason for that. It does not bring life. It's not going to get them to do what you want them to do. It just is going to cause great heartache and sunder a valued relationship. It matters profoundly how you do what you do, and it does not all depend on you. So take care of yourself along the way. And we're going to end with a bit of prayer. Now, I'm going to invite you in just a moment to picture your family of origin, who grew up in the home you grew up in or whatever that was like. Then I'll switch and ask you to picture any of your families of choice, right? Spouse, kids maybe, friends. The people outside your family you might turn to when you need somebody to talk to or to share good news with. And I just have a little meditation for you. I'll put a little bit of music on in the background to lead you through that. And I know that some people use imagination more readily than others, but I'm encouraging you to give it a shot if you can. So first, if you'd be so kind as to take a few deep breaths, and as you're breathing in and out, become aware of having a body, of being alive, of being you. So first, I invite you to see the faces of your own family of origin. I don't know, maybe it's a dinner table or fun gathering. Some of those people may be still with you. Maybe others live now in the prayerful memories of your heart. Just picture those who are your family of origin. See them. Just take a look for a moment at their faces. And if they're deceased, at a happy moment maybe, what do you see? And if you could say something to one of them or to all of them, what would you say? What might you say? What pops into your heart to say? Maybe imagine saying it. Do any of them say anything to you back? What do they say? And next, families of choice. If you're married, have kids, maybe see them one at a time. Maybe friends, someone you just want to turn to share good news, or if you're scared. If God said something to you about them, what might God say to you about them, about any one of them? All right, I'll invite you to come back to an awareness of being in this place, if you would. I know that some find it easier than others to use imagination like that. If you found any blessing in that, great. And you could do it again, do it longer. If it was difficult or you fell asleep, it's all right. It's still true that the work of family is an ongoing effort, and God comes to us in the blessed masses of our regular daily living. So bow your heads and pray for God's blessing. May you be able to trust that you are loved because you are. May you be able to remember again that you are deep down good because you are deep down good. And may you know that your life matters because it does. And may Almighty God bless you now and each step of this journey, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. It's truly been my honor to have this time with you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for your goodness.